start recording, and we are going to broadcast this live to Facebook. So give me just a couple of minutes here and we will get started. Hopefully the weather wherever you are watching this from is as good as it is here in Birmingham, Alabama today. It's about 65 degrees and perfectly sunny outside. Pretty awesome. I was at the track this past weekend at Barber Motorsports Park, and it was the same. It was excellent. Hope I'm not rubbing it in for those of you that live in a colder climate. Steven says Watkins Glen's under 2 feet of snow. Oh man. Doug, home tracks are all in neighboring states this year. Just bought an Apex Pro, driving an MB1 Miata and HPD2. So I presume that'd be with NASA. MB1 Miata, that's an excellent learning tool. A lot of fun. Cool. We've got about half of our attendees here, so we'll go ahead and get it started. I will be sharing my phone screen here in a minute as well to walk through the app and show you guys some specific things there. But we're going to start off with talking about the app's compatibility for iOS devices and kind of talk about the elephant in the room with the Android app, which tends to be a very consistently asked question. You know, what's our plan with that? Where does it stand now? So we'll talk about app compatibility. Then I'm going to jump into the hardware. I want to make sure that you as a customer are aware of what sensors are in the hardware. So what is the device actually doing? You know, what's on the circuit board that's recording this data? So what you can expect from it. And I'd like to provide a little education on GPSs and IMUs and kind of the sensors, just so that you have an understanding of maybe a little bit deeper than just, hey, I stick this thing in my car and it gives me lap times and data, right? There's a little more to it than that. So we'll cover that. Then I'll share the app screen. We'll talk about connect, calibrate, drive, and picking a track. And then lastly, we'll talk about some of the features, mainly Crew View, which is our live streaming feature, a little bit of data review, and then Lap Timer Plus, which is the app upgrade that gives you a lot more capability and functionality. So as we go and you have a question, just drop it in the Q&A box and I will answer it live on air with our live studio audience here. And that way I don't miss your question. If you drop it in the chat box, I might not see it. Q&A, I get prompted, I see a notification, I know to go back and answer it. If you are watching from Facebook, I won't be answering questions from Facebook. This is just because this webinar is free, we're broadcasting it there just to help more people with the product. But if you register for the webinar, then you will have access to that Q&A box. Very cool. Before we get started, I'll mention one more time, tonight at 7 o'clock Central, we have a webinar with Robbie Foley. If you don't know his name, he co-drives with Bill Auberlin and IMSA GTD for Turner Motorsport. It's a factory supported GTD team in IMSA, and Bill is the one of the winningest drivers. I think he's tied with Scott Pruitt for most wins in IMSA history. And so Robbie has a really cool perspective. He's a completely pro driver. He's paid to do his job. And he's got an awesome perspective on using traffic, passing, managing traffic, and something that I see a lot when I coach clients, when I'm working with Apex Pro customers, is that we're not always taught how to make safe and manageable passes kind of going up through HPDE. You know, the track day system and our instructors kind of teach us how to get by people safely in a very general sense. But usually I find that some of the fundamentals of passing are really not observed or understood. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is how can I always execute safe passes and do it without impeding myself or the other driver, all the way from track days to pro racing. And Robbie has a good perspective because when you're in the 12 hours of Sebring or the 24 hours of Daytona, if you crash into somebody trying to make a pass on lap, 50, right, hour 3, that's not going to end well for you, right? You really have to keep the car clean above and beyond all else. So make sure you sign up for that if that's something that interests you. Just a little shameless plug here, mainly because I'm really excited about it. And I really want to put that information in front of you because there's some really little things that you'll hear us say and you'll go, never thought about it like that. And that's purely because Robbie's somebody that has hours and hours and hours of experience with this and thinking about it and trying to improve. Cool. Tim says he's going ice racing on Friday. If you live in the snow, embrace it. Awesome. The link I just dropped in the webinar chat is for the webinar tonight. It's $59 and 40% off for Lap Timer Plus subscribers. So if you do sign up, you're a Lap Timer Plus subscriber, send me an email with your PayPal account, your PayPal email, and we will refund you 40% of the webinar after you sign up. Okay, commercial over for that. I'll mention it again at the end. Let's talk about the Apex Pro app. And with regard to its compatibility with hardware devices and its general capability. So Apex Pro is primarily on the iOS platform, which is Apple devices. So iPhone, got an iPad, right? Now, the thing about Apple, right, is that, and Android too, honestly, just hardware and software compatibility in general, is eventually older hardware won't be able to run the latest software. So what you need to know as far as device compatibility goes, if you're considering purchasing an Apex Pro, or if you just bought one and you want to know if your wife's iPad works with it, or if you have to borrow your daughter's iPad or something like that, or your husband's iPad, whatever. iOS software 14 is the latest operating system from Apple. Your device needs to be able to run that software in order to use the Apex Pro app. Now, the good news there is that any device newer than an iPhone 6S will run iOS 14. iPad Air 2 are newer. So basically, if you've bought an iOS device in the past 4 or 5 years, it's more than likely it's going to be compatible with iOS 14. To check your software version, tap General go to Settings, General, and then look for Software Update. And you'll see it right there. It'll tell you your current version and whether or not you can update. Would always recommend running the latest version. Sometimes I hear people say, I don't want my UI to change, user interface. I don't want these things to change, so on and so forth. But it's really highly recommended that you update because there's security concerns for older OS versions. That's the reason why they're updated consistently, to try to keep hackers from gaining access to those OS versions. And the compatibility with newer apps and newer software is going to only get better. If you're running an old iPhone device and you're not happy with how much capability it has, the processing speed, maybe it takes a long time when you click an app to open it, I would certainly consider looking into like an iPhone 8, iPhone 10 or something like that, when your upgrade with your wireless provider comes around. If you do want a connection with a Verizon wireless provider, let us know and we'll hook you up with Eric Call. Probably some of you are already working with them. Very cool. So iOS compatibility, iPhone 6S or newer, iPhone 6 won't work. Old iPods won't work. It's got to be the latest version of the iPod Touch, newer versions of iPad, iPhone 6S. The iPhone 6S actually has a very good camera and stabilization setting if you want to get video. So maybe you're looking for an old device you're going to use in your car. iPhone 6Ss don't tend to have like the shakiness that you see from newer iPhones. And I'll just touch on that quickly. It's actually kind of interesting. Newer iPhones use software. So basically the lens is kind of in a bed of springs and it's inherently not good for high frequency vibrations, but they actually use corrections with the software to try to smooth out the vibrations. The iPhone 6S has a different camera and it's a mechanical style stabilization. So the camera actually stabilizes the image. iPhone 6S and iPhone 12 are your best camera phone options for recording video. So if you don't have an iPhone, maybe you have an Android device, buy one of those. Tim, nice. 6 Plus. Oh, yeah, 6S. You got to have a 6S. But you can find used 6Ss for cheap. talking 150 bucks or less. So I would recommend that. It's worth the upgrade. Cool. So that's compatibility. Again, drop questions as you have them. Let's see, Android support. We do have an Android app. It's active on the Google Play Store. It has about 70% of the functionality of the iOS app. It does not have as much data review. It does not have crew view. It does not have all the different data channels that we have on iOS. Basically, it's a much more simplified version of the app. There's still useful elements of it, but it does have a lot of bugs. It is maintained, but it's being updated very slowly. I'll save you guys the reason why, but we don't have an immediate plan to bring the Android app up to compatibility with the iOS app. And I know if you're an Android person, I'm sorry, but it's a business decision for us. We can only focus on one platform at a time. It's just too high cost for a small business to manage two. And for those of you that might know about software, a bridge platform software is not a viable option when you're utilizing a Bluetooth connected device like the Apex Pro. There's a lot of other technical reasons as well. So get that one out of the way. Let's talk about customer service and our warranty policy, return policy, that kind of stuff real quick, because it's not something that I think we talk about enough. I'm trying to do a better job of marketing it better. When you buy an Apex Pro, it comes with a 12-month warranty, meaning if you drop it in your toilet, if your dog eats it, something like that, we're going to help you out within a year. All right. Even if you can't produce the original device, ideally you ship us back the original and we repair it. But we will handle any warranty within a year. As soon as a year is expired, all right, it's no longer under warranty. So either you can pay us for repairs, which usually are around $100. Maybe it's a battery, maybe it's if you dropped it and it got smashed, maybe it's the LEDs or something like that. Right? If you have an issue with it, we'll charge you around $100 depending on what it is to repair it. Or you can simply buy a new one. So those are kind of your options. The last option is if you're a subscriber to Lap Timer Plus, which is our in-app purchase, your warranty gets extended for the life of the subscription, right? The only thing I wouldn't that we do have record of when you subscribe, your email address, some other things. So if you email us and say, hey, I broke my hardware and I need to send you a warranty, and we let you know Lap Timer Plus subscribers warranty gets extended, and you go subscribe to the $10 a month monthly just for that 1 month to get a free warranty, we're probably not going to honor that. That's not super cool. If you're already subscribing and you have a problem, we're going to hook you up. We'll fix it, whatever it is. No big deal. General customer service, Apex Pro Users Group on Facebook. If you're a Facebook user, make sure you search that. Apex Pro Users Group. I will drop a link. This is being broadcast live in the Apex Pro Users Group, conveniently enough. But I will drop a link in the chat. Make sure you join that. If you have any questions about your Apex Pro, if you want to ask other Apex Pro users questions, if you want to share your data, particularly if you want to screenshot some data and say, hey guys, help me out here. That is a great resource. 9 times out of 10, there's an Apex Pro power user somewhere that can answer your question faster than I'll get to it, or someone else on our team. So definitely join the Apex Pro Users Group. If you're not on Facebook, or if you would prefer another, Eduardo says there's a UK-based group as well. So if you're in the UK, make sure you join the UK-based Apex Pro Users Group. If you're not on Facebook or you need to contact us directly, our direct email is apex@apextrackcoach.com. I'll type that in the chat as well. That goes to myself. It goes to Ross, who's in the next room over. It goes to Lisa, who manages our operations. And one of us will get back to you and help you with that. If you do need to submit a warranty, there is a warranty form at the bottom of the Apex Pro page. So if you say, hey, something happened with my warranty, dog ate my homework, right? I need to submit a warranty claim. There is a link in the footer of the Apex Pro site. I'll link those in here real quick. Just give me 1 second. Pull up an incognito browser for it. There's also a couple of other resources in the footer of our website that I want to make sure that I put out there that I need to do a better job of sharing. So first is going to be the warranty, returns and repairs. So drop in there. if you need return or repair. Our return policy, if you buy an Apex Pro and for some reason you decide you don't want to keep it, we have a 60-day, no money's asked return policy, or no questions asked. So if you decide to return it within 2 months, no questions asked, we'll pay your money back. We've probably had that happen once. That's not common, but happy to give you that peace of mind. And the last thing that I'll drop in the link here is the Getting Started page on our website. This is a really strong resource. There's kind of two resources on our website to go to when you have questions about the product. And one is the Getting Started page, which is linked right here. And that's going to include some PDFs to different documents, the real-time feedback guide, what do the lights mean, mounting guide, which we'll talk about here in a second, user's manual that comes in the box, and then the custom track feature guide. So that's like, I want to create an autocross course. How do I do it? Or I want to create a hill climb track, or I want a track in my neighborhood. How do I create it? That guide is there. And then the second place is FAQs. This is just a summary of the most commonly asked questions. And that should cover, 80% of the questions that come up. The other ones can go to the Apex Pro users group or apex@apextrackcoach.com. Cool. That's a lot of information. Just remember 12 months from the date that you bought. Might want to make a note in your calendar or something. Let's talk about the Apex Pro hardware. So this is the Apex Pro device. You're probably familiar with that. It's a Delrin case, which is kind of a composite plastic material. And then there's an anodized aluminum plate on the back that contains everything. The base plate is magnetic. There's rare earth magnets in the base. There's rare earth magnets in the unit. That's why you get such a strong connection there, right? The pins go inside the unit to locate it so that in an incident or something, it's very, very difficult to dislodge the Apex Pro from the base. It's going to take, a 30 or 40 G impact in most cases to actually do that. So why is it important that this is Delrin and not metal? So there's a GPS chip inside of the Apex Pro. To get signal, it has to be able to communicate through this plastic, right? So the chip, the antenna, actually sees out of the plastic. You have your LEDs here on the front. Also in the case, you have a battery, obviously. You have the 9-axis IMU, or inertial measurement sensor. That's an accelerometer. That's what's giving you the display on the LEDs. That's what's populating the friction circle data, the G-force data that you can see in data review. That's all from the IMU. There's a microcontroller and there's a BLE chip. So Bluetooth Low Energy is how this connects to your phone. It connects via Bluetooth signal, but particularly Bluetooth Low Energy is kind of a fancy, very, very low energy method of Bluetooth communication. So that's what you need to know about the hardware. Now let's talk about mounting it. When we put it in our car, there's a couple things that are super important. Remember, there's a GPS chip in the unit. It's facing so that it's like looking out of the top of the unit. So when there's satellites orbiting the Earth, there's 20 some odd of them between the Americans, the Russians, and the Chinese, right? And this little chip inside here is getting a signal from those satellites that are orbiting around the planet. So it has to be mounted on your dashboard, somewhere on your dashboard, with the logo on the back facing the direction the car is going. Try not to turn the unit towards you. If you do, your data is going to look kind of funky. All right. The reason for that is because you can correct, that data that you record for this odd mounting position. But the more software corrections you add, the less accurate the data becomes. So we don't correct for that. Make the logo face the direction of travel. You'll be all set. Do not avoid at all costs hanging the unit upside down. I see this way too often, and you're not going to get data if you do this. But if you mount the unit on the base plate, right, on the suction mount, and you hang it like that, right, it's not going to work. Okay, you can't mount the unit upside down. It's got to be mounted with the logo, the right side up, facing the direction of travel. That's really important. If you're not getting laps logged, the first thing to look at, if you're logging data and you're like, hey, it's not giving me lap times, it's missing the start finish. Check your mounting position. Make sure it's not mounted upside down. Make sure it's mounted on the dashboard where it can see out of the windshield. Right? If you have it mounted down in the car, down somewhere on your dash, that's not going to work. One second. let's talk about the suction mount real quick. So the Apex Pro suction mount is from Panavice. It's the same supplier that GoPro uses. Hopefully you're somewhat familiar with it. To stick it on the windshield, you'll just press the suction cup up against the windshield. Then you depress the plunger, you press it down and pull the clip to lock it. All right, this mount has a 5-pound braking strength. Obviously this weighs a couple ounces. So it's gonna take a lot of force. Actually, I've never seen one of these depart from a windshield. So that's something important to know. Use the 2 adjustment screws on the side to move it however you need it. Remember, same thing applies. The top must see out the windshield. The logo must be facing the direction of travel. Other than that, you're good to go. If you don't have a suction mount, these are $40. I would recommend buying one to have in case you need to move it car to car. Or if you're an instructor and you want to move it into your student's car, maybe you have multiple cars, that's a good solution. You can also purchase the base plates separately for $12. So if you want a second base plate, maybe a second mounting location in the car, maybe mounting for another car, something like that, you can buy one of those from our website as well. Nice and simple there. So that's what you need to know about mounting. Now I'm going to cast the phone screen over to you so you can see what's on my phone. So don't judge me too harshly. See what apps I have open and stuff like that. So give me just a second here. We're going to walk through the app. Okay. All right. So I've got my Apex Pro app pulled up. I actually just downloaded it off the store. I've been running an internal version, an app build. So I'm actually going to go select my car color here real quick because it wants me to. I'm going to go to black. There we go. Nice. Okay. So on the home screen here, we have a bunch of different options, a bunch of different things that we can do. At the top is our user profile. That's where we edit our personal settings. Below that is the track list. That also contains the leaderboard, the track record. So when you submit your data to be compared with others, that's where it lives. Let's look at the user profile first. There's a bunch of toggles in here that turn on and off different features. And then you enter your information up here so that your data has, your username and your car assigned to it. If you record different data, you can always change your vehicle here. Record data in a different car, you can change it here or on the data session. We'll talk about that. Crew view. If you do not want to use crew view, you can toggle off right here. Crew view is going to broadcast your position, your speed, and your lap times in real time as you drive while you're on the track. That does use cellular data. So if you don't want to, if you're going to be doing a lot of driving and you might not want that data charge, you can turn it off. It's a pretty small amount of data, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. It just depends on what your plan is. You can subscribe to Lap Timer Plus. For our friends in the UK, you're probably going to do this, metric units. Maybe you want kilometers per hour. Actually, I guess you guys still use miles per hour in the UK, right? Miles and miles per hour. But anyway, if you want kilometers per hour instead of miles per hour to be represented. And then down here, you have the automatic start and stop timer. I'll talk about that later, but you can turn it on and off here. Last thing I'll mention is this toggle right here, use Apex hardware logging. If you turn that off, you can log data with your phone alone in the Apex Pro app. The big thing that you need to use, or the big thing that you need to know with Apex hardware logging is that the hardware is going to give you really good data. Logging data with your phone does not give you good data. So all you're going to see is speed and GPS position. I saw a question come in. I will get to those at the end. All right. Tracks and records. This is where you can go in and add a new track. You can look at the existing track list. At the top, you can search for a track. To view records for tracks, you can tap the track right here, just like I did with Auto Club. And you will see, hey, there's the leaders. Somebody raised their hand. Stephen, if you have a question, can you drop it in the chat box? Notice you hit the raise hand button. I don't know how to call on you, so to speak. let's see. Obviously, you can scroll through this list to look at tracks. If you tap View, that is going to show you the start-finish line, which is this little green line right here, right, on the satellite image of the track. Okay, let's talk about Connect, Calibrate, Drive. Sorry, if the app gets, sometimes when I'm sharing the screen, the app's going to get a little bit behind. So just give me a second. Thanks for letting me know. Do you guys see that? I just tapped search. It should say pull down to search for Apex Pro. Let me know if you see that. Don't see that. Still on the profile. Okay. This process doesn't always work that well. Let me disable my screen share and start it again, because this is kind of critical to the experience here. Okay. Give me 1 second here. Let me know in the chat box if that happens again. I'll keep it pulled up. When you comment in the Q&A, I have to go in and like X out all your comments so I don't see them anymore. So it can kind of throw me off. You guys see the home screen again? Yes. Okay. So we'll assume it's going to work for at least a minute. Let's do Connect, Calibrate, Drive. So I'm going to turn on the unit. Let's pretend we just mounted our Apex Pro. We're just going to go through the process, mounting it, and then starting a session. And turn it on. The lights that flash are going to represent the charge level. So if they're yellow, that means it has a medium level of charge. If they're green, it's fully charged. Don't trust the battery indicator on the hardware. One of the things that we're working on is enhancing the power of the battery indication. It's not extremely accurate right now. I'm trying to do things before we sell them to make it a little bit better, or before the units like leave here. But if they flash green, they're fully charged. If they flash yellow, you're good to go. If it flashes red, might need charging. Now we have the lights on. I've got the green and red display mode. To connect to the unit, obviously tap Connect right here, and then click Apex Pro. Now, if this is your personal device, when it says new Apex Pro hardware connected, would you like to remember, click yes. Okay, I'm going to click no, because this unit is actually a ready to sell unit. I'm going to click not now, but if you click yes, all you have to do to reconnect to your device is turn it off and turn it back on. All right, your phone will automatically find it. I would highly recommend doing that because it's going to save the battery a lot if you turn it off after you use it. So like go out for a session, come back in, save your data, turn the unit off. That will save the battery and let you run all day long on one charge. Now I'm going to mount it in the car. Let's say it's stuck to the windshield. We're all mounted. I'm going to tap Calibrate. You'll see the Night Rider light sequence. That's leveling out the IMU. All right, now we're good to go. So a couple of things here. If you have cellular service on the device you're connected with, my cell phone, I do. If I'm close to a racetrack, I'm going to get a pop-up that will say, are you at this track? Whichever track you're close to. That's when you can select that track configuration and you're good to go with the track. If you are creating a custom track, you're using a device without cellular service, or maybe it selects the wrong track or something weird happens, you can go to Tracks and Records, and then you can pick the track. So for our UK friends, I'll click Anglesey. That's in Wales. So when I'm selecting a track, if I'm already connected to the unit, just tap this drive button right here. All right, and that's going to take us to the drive screen. I'm going to tap drive, and that's going to open the drive screen. Okay, so now what we see is the ready to drive screen. Going from top to bottom, I've got my battery percentage, 38%. The white Bluetooth icon means I'm connected to the unit. So white here, blue flashing light on the unit. That means I'm connected. This next crosshairs icon, that's GPS reception. If I have good GPS reception, instead of it saying inertial only, like if I was outside right now, it would say G3 fix and then a number. That number you can watch if you ever have lap timing issues. Pay attention to what that number displays. If it's less than 2.5 meters, 2.5, then you're good to go. The check engine light symbol, that is for the Obd2 unit. And the question mark, that is if you have any questions, tap that and it'll explain the feature. Track name, running lap time, last lap, best lap. Okay. Down here at the bottom, this left button will rotate the screen to landscape. Right button will turn on the camera. That's a Lap Timer Plus feature. So if I tap that, I'm going to get a camera, right? And that way I can set up my camera, I can record video, and I can overlay my video and my data. Have to have the in-app purchase Lap Timer Plus for that. If I rotate my phone to landscape, I now get some more options here. And those options are from top to bottom on the left, the regular lap timer, running lap time, the wand, which is predicted lap time. So what lap time does, based on how much distance you've covered this lap, what time will you do at the start finish line? And then my predicted delta option. Predicted delta is going to be a small number. So that's going to be the difference between my predicted lap and my best lap. That's the lap timer. Now you can see GPS aided G3 fix. So I'm actually getting a GPS signal inside my office. Cool. See it counting down over here. Very cool. If you do want predictive lap timing or video, that's Lap Timer Plus, and you can purchase that from the home screen of the app. Next time you come into this page, you'll have access to those features. The little arrow here on the top left will take me back, or I can toggle back to portrait. The reason we have a manual toggle from portrait to landscape is because at about 1.4 G, 1.3, 1.4 Gs, lateral G, the device will start to, the phone screen will rotate. So I have my phone mounted in the car. I have some sticky tires on the car, throw it into the corner, boom, it shifts, right? We don't want that happening. We want it to stay so we can see the lap timer. I'm going to tap back. And again, I got to this screen because I selected the track, but you can also get there by clicking the steering wheel. That's the drive icon. It's going to take you to this screen, drive. So to get up and running your first time at the track, all you really need to know is user profile and then connect, calibrate, drive. Make sure you go to drive. Last thing I'll cover here, go to drive and start the session, which will get the lights going and the timer moving. Do that before you go on track, and not right before you go on track. There's nothing advantageous about tapping start a split second before you go on track, right? Hit start when it's convenient, right? Either sitting in your paddock spot before you put your helmet on, or when you're on the grid, whatever. Sometimes it helps to let the unit start running because that gives the GPS kind of like an active mode. So it'll find satellites and your GPS fix will be better. And that just makes it less likely you'll ever miss any laps. So again, hit start earlier than you think you need to. There's no reason to add stress to your, reason. You'll just have a longer first lap in the data, right? Doesn't matter. Hit start early. That's the key there. Finish and save is going to save your data. And then I'll go back. There is an automated start-stop timer. So if you have that selected in the user profile, at 30 miles per hour, the session will start. Okay, let me hit on that real quick. I'm going to open the drive screen. If I don't touch anything from this point on, at 30 miles per hour, it'll start logging data. The catch is that if the phone screen goes dark, right, if it goes to sleep, the phone cannot tell the unit to start. That's how this works. The phone says, hey, start. The user hit start logging, right? This is where the data comes from. This is controlling it. This is where the data comes from. Hey, start logging. If it's dark, it can't say anything. So you need to have your phone settings set so that the phone doesn't turn off if you want to use the automated start timer. All right. It's pretty foolproof. You just need to tap drive and then start driving and it'll start recording at 30 miles per hour. It stops recording after it's been stationary for 5 minutes. So if you just leave the device on, leave your phone connected, at 5 minutes, it stops and records the data after the session. I usually don't wait for that. I just do it manually. It takes less than a second. It's very simple, easier than sending a text. The next row of icons down, and I'll move quickly here because we're getting close to time, is your Obd2 connection, which works exactly like the Apex Pro unit. Apex Pro Obd2, you're going to pop that guy in your Obd2 port. You're going to tap Obd2 dash, pull down to search, tap the Apex Obd2 icon when it comes up, and then you can open the Obd2 dashboard and you can see various gauges that you have access to. If you're curious what gauges your car will have, the gauges listed here is the maximum amount that your car might have. If it's newer than 2008, you'll probably have everything shown here. Notice there's not steering position, there's not brake pressure. Right, you're going to get vehicle speed, engine RPM, MAF airflow, MAP pressure, throttle position, fuel level, coolant temperature, intake temperature, pedal position. The Apex Pro Obd2 tends to work the best with domestic cars and Japanese cars. German cars are harder to communicate with over Obd2. It still works. It's just going to be a more challenging connection. So if you plan to use the Obd2, feel free to reach out to us and ask questions, and we can share our experience. Certainly don't know everything, but happy to share. This bottom, or these two bottom, I guess, areas here are the display settings for the device. So I can toggle through different colors that I want the device to display. I can use solid colors. I can use red and green. The skill level is the resolution of the device. If you want to see a lot of green lights, hey, doing good, start on 1 star. Most people use 2. 3 is like, be a harsh critic, right? Show me red lights anytime I'm not at the limit. Brightness just changes the brightness of the LEDs. Filter here on the bottom will change it from road racing to autocross. That changes how fast the lights move across the unit. Most of you on the track are going to use road racing. When you go to an autocross, you can switch to autocross. About, down here on the bottom. If you ever have an issue or you have a question about Apex Pro, the first thing we're going to ask you is, what version of the app are you on? If you tap About, it's going to tell you your software, which is the version of the Apex Pro app. And it's going to tell you firmware, which is the software on the unit. All right, all the latest units are going to be 3.0 or newer. If you have older firmware than that, as long as it's not like 2.0 or something, then you're probably good to go. You can also go here and look at various different options there. Lap Timer Plus is down here at the bottom, and that's going to give you an overview of the paid features: video rendering, predictive lap timing, sector timing, customizing sectors, all the things that come with the Apex Pro Lap Timer Plus feature. There's also a bunch of other benefits like discounts on our webinars. We do Lap Timer Plus specific webinars and things like that. So make sure to check that out. Might want to try it for a month, see what it's like, and then you can upgrade to the annual, so you save some money. $9.99, that's $10 a month, so it's $120 a year. Or you can pay, save $20 and buy the annual version. Very cool. Down here at the bottom, the CrewView live feed. This is going to show you recently submitted data. To follow people, you can tap following right here where you see 84 following, and then you can go in and you can see the users that you're following. You can search people's names, right? So if I want to see, like, there's Kathy Morey, right? If you want to find your friends, you can do that. Followers or people following you. I have two new follower requests. I'm going to accept those. So what that does is when your friends post their data, you can tap friends right here and you can see your friends' records. Right here is where your own awards live, my awards, community. I just recommend playing around with that to try and figure it out. This is going to be overhauled soon. It's going to be new and improved. So stay tuned for some exciting CrewView information. Tapping the CrewView trophy icon is the live streaming feature. So this will show you if someone is on track. Right now, we've got 2 people on track live during this webinar, midday on a Wednesday at Apex Motor Club, Joey Rainey and Joe Jenny. So if I focus on Joey Rainey, I'm going to see, I'm not related to him, different last name. I'm going to see his car's position. There he is. His lap time list here. You can see his lap list, his running lap time, and then his speed down here in the bottom left. Zoom in and see his position on track. Oops, sorry, too much happening at once. All right, so that's crew view. We're back in the app. It booted me out there for a second. Awesome. Data reviews right here in the middle. Let's touch on a couple of quick things with data, and then I believe I've touched everything, and I will get to your questions. I'm going to open data review, and this is where your data is going to live. You'll notice Anglesey GP. That was the session that I just showed you guys as an example. And then down here, the sample user, that's the data that comes with the app when you download it. And so that's the data that you can play around with to see what all it does for you. Let's start at the top and work our way down. So up here where we see all sessions, there's a little square with an arrow in it. That's going to teach you how to swipe your session. Tap that, it's going to say swipe me. Then when you swipe, you're going to get options, and then here are your options. This is everything you can do with your session data. You can submit it, you can share it with somebody else, you can edit the notes. If it doesn't record lap times for some reason, you can tap repair, and 9 times out of 10, it'll fix that. It'll add laps back in. The iCloud icon is for adding your data to your iCloud account, so it'll back up your data. I'd recommend doing this. If you're looking at your app right now and you have a lot of data, you haven't done it, just go tap that icon and upload your data to iCloud. There's there's 3 different like 30-second videos or minute-long videos on our YouTube channel that teach you how to do that. Upload it and it'll save it to an Apex Pro folder on your iCloud. Cool. You can search data by tapping the search bar. If you have a lot of sessions, I recently deleted the app off my phone. I backed up all my data and deleted the app because I'm running an in-house test build to make some changes and some improvements with the app. So I don't have all my data in here. You can see I've just got these 2 sessions. You can organize data by track. If you have a lot of data, I would recommend looking at it by track. Again, if I swipe over the session and I get to options, if I tap submit, that sends my data to the Apex Pro server, and that is what gives you awards for your data. That is what populates the CrewView live feed. If you're in the top 10, it shows up on our website. We're going to be doing a lot more with this in the future. A lot more. There's going to be different categories. There's going to be awards for being the fastest or having the best Apex score. So stay tuned there. Sharing is for sending data to others. You can do that with AirDrop. You can do it with email. Just tap share and follow the instructions. I won't go into the details. Editing notes is going to allow you to change the car, change the driver, change the weather, add weather information, add setup information. I'd recommend doing this. I go in and I add was it sunny or wet? Was it cloudy or overcast? Was it whatever is important? And then obviously if it was not me driving or if I was driving someone else's car, I put that information in there. Let's open up this sample session and just talk through data review. I'm not going to go in depth here because we have a lot of content that explains how all of this works. And so I'll let you guys explore that on your own because that's a whole topic in of itself. Once we get into data review, we're really starting to talk about, learning to use the data to become better drivers. And that's a big topic. On the bottom here, we have our list of laps. So I see lap time, I see Apex score. That's what the percent is. Apex score is basically red lights versus green lights, right? Higher percentage means you were seeing more green lights. You're seeing green lights that percentage of the time, right? And you can't get 100% currently with the way the Apex Pro model works. You can see the red on the straightaways. Again, another separate topic. I'm not going to have time to cover it with this structure. All you have to do to look at a different lap on the screen above is tap that lap and you'll see a blue check mark. All right, tap the lap and you'll see a blue check mark. I see another question. I'll get to that in just a second. To add another session, to update a session and look at those 2 sessions together, you can tap add another session here at the bottom, and that will allow you to select other data sessions to compare. Couple of things real quick. If you're looking at the app yourself, to compare 2 laps, press and hold a second lap, and you'll get a red check mark, and then you'll see the laps overlaid on top of one another. Okay. A couple of other basic functionality things here. This little guy in the middle that you see me moving right here is the data channel selector. you can move through different data channels, and that will change the data that's displayed on the map icon, the map image. If you're confused about what long G is, what lat G is, what these things are, what they're representing, tap the question mark right here. I'll show you this real quick. Super cool. Next tip. Right here, this is going to show you all the data channels and what they're represented by. So gain, losses, in time, longitudinal G's, forward, positive acceleration. Forward acceleration is positive. That means not in forward acceleration is negative. Deceleration is negative. Lateral G, yaw rate. This defines all of that for you. So tap the question mark. To look at other data views, maybe you want to look at the data differently. You don't want to see it over the track map. Tap the right side arrow right here. And that's going to pull up a graph where you can graph all the different data channels. Let me get it configured real quick. It had my last settings saved. So now I have 3 data channel selectors, and I can display different data on the graph here. What I typically use this for is the speed trace or the long G trace. So I'm going to start with speed, and this is again, I have a whole nother video on this. Speed and distance graphed on the map. I see my little track map. I can move the data slider and see the car's position on the track and the data relative that represents that. The data point, the speed at that point on the track. I can change the color of the represented data here. That's the speed trace. Again, I have a whole webinar on that, whole video on that, talk about it all the time on Facebook Live. Tune in for more content on that in the future. Check out our YouTube channel and you'll see videos. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm going to tap the arrow again on the right side of the screen. This is my friction circle. Again, same story. I have lots and lots of content on the friction circle, what it is, what it means. I don't have time to explain it today, but I would recommend investing in that and learning that information because it's going to be very helpful. And then the last screen here is kind of a chart view that you see these bar graphs. This is my sector time view, which is for lap timer plus only. So I actually have like an optimal lap time. So if I split the track into different sectors, basically little start finish points all around the track. And then I have an optimal lap time, which is a compilation of my best sectors. That is sector times. I can look at, maybe I want to see my top speed. I can go to speed. I can go to max. And then this will show me my top speed for each lap, 114.96, 114.44. Lots of little useful things in there. Again, lots of videos that describe that. These 2 icons at the top help configure your data. So the square is to configure your sectors. Right, I can change where my sectors are on the track, how many sectors I have. That changes the information displayed in the sector time area. And then the wrench actually allows me to configure my data channels. I can change where they fall in the app. I can actually move them. Then I can change how they're colored. Right, I can actually change a bunch of different stuff there. So I would recommend go into a data session that doesn't mean anything to you, the sample session, and just tap all the buttons and see what happens. Best way to learn. I can tell you about it all day long, but the best way to do it is to get that experience. I know that's pretty quick and that's a lot of information, but I've been recording this webinar and I will send it out to you in a quick email follow-up. And you can access it as a YouTube video and watch it again in the future. So you can kind of rehash it and hear my explanation. Again, if you're not following us on the Apex Pro users group or on YouTube, those are 2 great resources to answer your questions. I'll drop the link to YouTube, our YouTube page as well. I would recommend subscribing. You'll get notifications, when we launch new videos. I'm going to drop that in the comments or in the chat box. And then let me get to questions real quick. Got 2 from Kathy, 1 from Phil. So Kathy said, can you clarify small on the data usage? Our early experience was gigabytes for a few sessions. Can you clarify more on the data usage, Kathy? Kathy, I honestly can't because it's dependent on your data plan. I don't know how much data it actually uses. I've run CrewView for probably 20 sessions in a row over 2 weekends, and I didn't see any impact in my bill. So if you have an unlimited data plan, you're probably not going to notice it. If you have a limited data plan, you probably will. It's kind of like making a phone call, I think, is what Austin's told me. I don't know exactly how much data it actually uses. I don't have a specific answer for that. Kathy then said, tried to compare sessions, one of mine to one you dropped me. The start line is totally different on mine than yours. Track is Barber. You cannot correct that. That is my fault. I changed the start finish line at Barber. And so in one session, it's going to be like, for a while, I had it in a different place than I have it now. And so you could look at, instead of distance driven across the track, switch it to time, and that might sync it up a little bit better. On the speed trace view. That would be where I would start there. Otherwise, you could tap repair on the session that's different. Go to options, Kathy, and swipe over options, repair, and see what it does. That might change it. Those are the two things I would do there. Philip said, on a typical weekend, if unit is fully charged, what length of time would you expect before recharging? Philip, that is, or Phil, I'm sorry, that is contingent on if you turn the unit on and off between sessions. If you leave it on like it is now, so right now it's on and connected to my phone, it's going to use up battery. So it would probably last half a day. If you turn it off between sessions, it's probably going to last about 5 hours of live battery. Bench testing, if I fire a new one up and I leave it over there, they run about 6 hours in room temperature. In the heat, it's going to be probably 5 hours. I'm sorry, yeah, extreme heat, 5 hours. Extreme cold, 4 or 5 hours. But in most conditions, it's probably going to be 5 to 6 hours of runtime. So again, what I would recommend there is turn the unit on, have it remember your phone. It's going to automatically connect. After you save your data between sessions, turn it off. And that's going to give you the best battery usage. Eduardo says, would you say for slick tire users to use advanced setting? Yes, I would use the 3-star setting if you're running a really sticky tire. The 3-star display setting if you want to see, if you want it to expose more underutilization of the grip. Use the 3-star setting. That is on the home screen at the bottom. You'll see the 3 stars. It'll say skill. You can change that. Awesome. I think we covered all of that. Good deal. Yeah, sorry about the start finish line, Kathy at Barber. I was playing around with it and I changed it to try to get better GPS reception because the old start finish line was missing laps every now and then. So I tried to change it and it did get better. So I left it to where it is now. So you might see that. Try hitting repair and that might fix it. I don't think it will, but it might. Okay, guys, do you have any more questions for me? Feel free to drop those. I'll stay on for another minute or so. Oh, I see some more questions. Tim, best way to send feature suggestions. Send them to apex@apextrackcoach.com. If you want to suggest features, I'll give you guys a heads up on what helps us the most. If you just say, hey, I want this, and it's very general and just like an idea, sometimes that doesn't really paint a clear enough picture for us to investigate it. If you can like screenshot something like from another app or another data system that you like, or if you can give us a little more like, hey, do something like this, or I really like this, that will help. The way we do that is I basically just keep a running list in a Word doc of your submissions for feature requests. And particularly if someone else mentions the same thing, then I start zeroing in on like, hey, maybe we should look at this. And then I also, basically once a month, I take stuff to the engineering team and I say, hey, have users requesting this. Is this something that is viable? Is it extremely expensive to implement? Is it cheap to implement? And that is the biggest decision making. Like if we have to spend 100 hours of programming on it, 9 times out of 10, it's not worth adding, regardless of how helpful it might be. It's just not viable. Many times it's like a little small thing that we can make an adjustment and it'll improvement. Yes. Steven says, does it account for wet conditions? So because when you turn it off, it forgets everything that the model has learned. So what he's referring to is the machine learning algorithm that's telling you if you're at the limit of the tire or not. When you turn it on, the data that you give it, the driving that you give it, is what it's building the model off of. So it doesn't really know or care or matter what the conditions are. All it knows is how hard you're accelerating and how fast you're going. So yes, it accounts for all conditions because it's not taking into account the humidity and the track temperature and the ambient temperature and all those things. It's just taking into account accelerations. So yes, it's kind of like cheating in the wet. If you've used it in the wet, it's kind of like as the track dries, it will know before you know. Awesome. So answer that. Tim's question, feature suggestions, apex@apextrackcoach.com. Thomas Holman, with Apex hardware logging off, using cell phone GPS only, will lap times be recorded for video export? That is an excellent question. I assume yes. I think it will overlay with your video. I don't know that. If you want to try a custom track, maybe that's something I need to play with sometime soon, but try creating a custom track, Thomas, and use that. Turn off the hardware logging and try to do it that way and see what happens. That would be the best way. Lou, I can touch on the lights while driving, but what I'm going to do is drop a link instead because I don't want to take up the next hour. I actually have to make a phone call here pretty soon, so I'm going to have to run. But I will drop a link to a PDF from the Getting Started page. And there's a lot of content on our YouTube page about it as well. Let's see, Getting Started, real-time feedback guide. I'm going to drop this in the comments in the chat box. Lou, look for the link I just put. It's the real-time feedback guide. It breaks down brake zone, mid-corner, corner exit, what you're seeing, how to interpret it, and then the action item, of course, is yours there. There's also a couple videos on it on our YouTube page. Basically, the red lights, unless you're going straight on a straightaway, you can't always achieve all green. But from the braking zone to track out, the red lights are going to show when you're not at the absolute edge of the friction circle, meaning you're not utilizing all the tire. 9 times out of 10, it's because our brake release isn't quite right? Or we're over slowing, and then when we turn the wheel, we're just way underutilizing the tire. That's the best way to think about it. What are the lights? The lights are representing the tire. Camera options. Are both front and rear cameras available? Currently, no, front camera only. If that's something that you want, though, send us an email and we will consider it. I remember talking to Austin about it, and I don't exactly remember what our determination on that was. But I think we can utilize it. There was a reason that he didn't want to do it. I'd have to ask him what it was. But certainly let us know. Eduardo, for UK, may a roll cage phone holder, maybe a roll cage phone holder coming soon as suction mounts are not really allowed. So you can't use suction mounts in the track events in the UK. Yes, and in that case, we probably will have to enable the front camera. It might have been because of the stabilization settings on the front camera, Ross. I'll have to look into it. Your camera mount's on the harness behind you. Kathy said, can you drop me the sample session? That must be something you added after I bought mine. Yes, I can send you the sample session. I actually have a lot better data that I could send you as well if you want like faster data. I don't know what you want to compare to. But I'll send you an email, Kathy, with some data. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I have to get going. I've got a phone call here in a few minutes that I've got to do. Last thing is I'll mention tonight's webinar again. Would love for you guys to join. Remember, if you're a Lap Timer Plus subscriber, you do get 40% off. The way that works is if you join, shoot us an email with your PayPal information, and I will make sure we PayPal you back $23.60, which is 40%. And I think you guys will really enjoy it. I need to not talk the rest of the day because I'm starting to lose my voice. Okay, I will post this recording as an unlisted YouTube video and send you guys a link. Actually, I'll probably post it as a public video, but I will email a link to this video by the end of the day tomorrow so that you can watch this again. It takes me a little while to do that, but I will get it to you by the end of the day tomorrow. All right, those of you watching on Facebook, thanks for joining us. Lots of good questions. apex@apextrackcoach.com is the email. Join the users group. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. all the Apex things. Stay in the know. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate your business, and looking forward to seeing you all at the track in the near future. Thanks.